So let's just start for a moment. Come to sit, perhaps on the edge of a blanket or a block. Let's turn the palms up. The palms face up, maybe the upper arms roll open a little bit more. Maybe you notice the inhalation is a bit fuller. And go ahead and close your eyes to become more and more acquainted with yourself, this present moment. In fact, you can take your organs of perception, the vehicles through which you see and smell and taste and hear and feel the world around you. And one by one, feel like you turn them, instead of being focused externally, that you shift them to become more and more aware of your internal landscape. So the eyes fold inward, the ears turn inward. Almost like your skin, your feeling perception can turn inward. And this idea of taste, maybe there's a savoring of the breath, becoming like a connoisseur of sensation. Not sure how we can apply scent or smell, but notice if there's incense in the room or any freshness of springtime carried on the breath. And over again, as we practice tonight, just keep drawing your awareness back to what is revealed to you in the present moment, in your body, through sensation. Bring your hands into prayer, lift your heart, bow your head. Chanting the sound of Om is stepping into the pulse of life itself, the eternal dance of impermanence. Everything that had a beginning will have a middle, will have an end. And all of this is supported by something that is eternal, some changeless state. Maybe through yoga practice, we begin to connect with the changeless, eternal state. So we can surf the waves of impermanence with a sense of glee, or at least faith. If you'd like to join me in stepping into the sea of life, the pulse of life itself, with the sound of a single Om, please do. You could hum, you could listen, you could just feel it. Inhale. Release your left hand down, palm facing the sky. Place your right hand over your heart. You're certainly welcome to open your eyes anytime you're not sure you understand, but close your eyes as often as you feel cozy. With the right hand on the heart, really feel the eternal beating of your heart. It's a lub-dub, it's an expansion, contraction, it's a continuous pulse of yin and yang. Connecting with your heart, whatever that means to you, your emotionality, maybe your spirit, the deepest, most essential aspect of yourself. With the left palm facing the sky, let your awareness dance in the palm. And then quite methodically link the index fingernail into the first crease of the thumb. And really feel the pulse that creates, that generates. Jnana mudra, wisdom seal. If you're not quite sure, you can't quite tell, undo it. Fill, infuse the palm with awareness, and then tuck the index finger. It might be subtle what you notice, but notice. I love that we get to become more and more curious of subtlety, of nuance. So leave the obvious behind. Bring your right hand toward your face. The first two fingers can fold into the palm. So the thumb covers the right nostril, the ring finger covers the left. Some people prefer to take those first two fingers and rest them on the forehead. Okay, no karma demerits there. You can do it if you like. But see how your fingers will open and close one nostril at a time. So roll the shoulders, sink the elbows, lift your ears. Inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Close the right nostril with the thumb. Inhale, left side. 3, 2, 1. Close left. Exhale, right side. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, right side. 3, 2, 1. Close right. Exhale, left side. That was one round of Nadi Shodhana. Inhale, left side. 3, 2, 1. Close left. Exhale, right side. 3. Inhale, right side. 3, 2, 1. Close right. Exhale, left side. That was 2 rounds. Keep doing a few more rounds on your own. And just really be so proud of yourself for coming to your mat in your own space, and recognize how tempting it can be to flit off of your mat or let your mind flit about, how sometimes being on your own is actually harder. So use it all as practice. Nadi Shodhana energy pathway purification technique is believed to purify the pathways in the body through which prana travels. As you get these nadis more open, the theory is more energy can travel and more freely. This is also said to to help to calm the mind, maybe upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system and downregulate the sympathetic nervous system. So you can begin the journey of moving from fight, flight, freeze, activity to rest, digest, integrate. The next time that you exhale through the left nostril, take your time to get there. Whenever you do, release your hand back down. Both hands might be in Jnana Mudra or empty. I love choosing by how it feels, not by what you think. As much as possible for the duration of your yoga class, don't use analysis, reason, logic, none of that. Abandon all of it. Come back to how you feel. Go ahead and open your eyes, and we'll start in a heart bench. So does anyone not have blocks? If you don't have blocks, I'm not sure if people are watching whose faces I can't see. If you don't have blocks, but you have a blanket, you could make your blanket a big rectangle and then roll it into a big long noodle, and then lay your spine over top, lengthwise along the spine under the noodle of the blanket. Perfect. Good, Chris. Yeah. And then get your sacrum right up against the edge. As you lay back on that, the end of the blanket that is over top, you could roll it up and make a pillow with it for your head. Yeah, so you could lay down, Chris, and just take the blanket at the end and roll it up. Hello, Hakeem, nice to see you. Not sure if you have blankets or if you have blocks. We're coming into heart bench. If you don't have blocks, a blanket is helpful. Yeah. If you like, you can bring the soles of your feet to touch and let your knees drift out to the sides. If that doesn't feel so good, you can keep your legs long or do something else. So I do have everyone's microphone muted. It seems these speakers are so sensitive to ambient sound, and I know that can be distressing. I do want you to feel 100% confident to turn your mic on to ask a question. I often can't see you when you come into the shape, and I can't then tell if you're struggling at all. And if there's a way I could help you, I'd love the opportunity to help you. There's so many things I can't do for you right now, but I could help you get into a heart bench. So if you have just a blanket, you could roll the blanket into a big noodle and lay back on top of that. Tuck the end of the blanket under your neck. Keep using your organs of perception, the vehicles through which you are able to see and smell and taste and touch and hear the world around you. As much as you can, keep turning them inward for this discovery of inner space. Let yourself be mesmerized by the gentle rocking of your breath. Almost lulled inward, like the breath can be a lullaby. And maybe there's something kind of magical about lulling the everyday thinking, measuring, judging, evaluating mind, so that maybe you can sink a little bit deeper to begin to reveal some of the background. What's in the background? What are the things you've been avoiding or just not wanting to look at, or feeling you don't have the time to address? Just a few more breaths here. In these last few breaths, feel around if there's any final anything that you recognize you're still gripping, that you could work on releasing. Inhale here. Exhale, sigh. Bring your feet to the ground, lift your knees up. Unless you prefer, you could leave them where they are. Press your elbows down, press your palms down, tuck your chin in, come up to sitting. You could simply cross your ankles and sit up and feel. If you like doing a seated forward bend, you could do that instead. Not a forward bend so much, but your feet on the ground, just sort of folding over your legs. So let's shift onto hands and knees. If you do have two blocks, bring them near the top of your mat so you can use them for a pose called praying mantis. Now, there's a way that we can set up with blankets or pillows instead, or without props altogether. If you do have blocks, your blocks, we'll say medium height, shoulder distance apart, elbows on the blocks, hands forward, knees back. Maybe your thumbs come to the back of your neck. If you don't have blocks, the first option would be simply to walk your hands forward. So your forehead is on the ground and still your armpits are opening. If you have blankets or pillows that you could use as a little bit of elevation, you could just rest your forearms on that, which could lift up a little bit to increase the angle of the joint movement here.
I just want to ask, how long do we hold the poses for?
Well, I'm keeping time. Can I ask why you want to know?
Because I tend to get really lost. I don't know if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes. I kind of go into a different zone, and I just was curious.
Curious. Okay. So I love that. We hold the poses for between 3 and 5 minutes generally. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a good question. I was just curious where the question was coming from. I love that you get lost.
Really lost. I love that too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Mute. Mute.
Yeah. So letting yourself get lost, which really that's kind of losing track. Like we'll say, I lost track of time. And that to me sounds really useful because we're sort of tracking ourselves all the time. And the tracking is somehow an evaluation or assessment of ourselves relative to our environment. Maybe when you were a kid, if you got to wander in the woods and felt safe, or wander in a field, or even play, you could lose that sense of tracking. I think there's a lot of space in there. I think there's a lot of merit and value to recognizing how we're continuously tracking ourselves, checking, always checking, am I going to be okay? And how letting go of the internal tracking device may very well be freedom. If yoga ultimately is a path of freedom, if realization is waking up, is freedom, I think there's something here. And maybe there is something to the logical reasoning mind that needs to check and track and compare. And that's beautiful. What a beautiful skill. I love that yin yoga could be shifting toward a more feeling sense, a more right brain experience. Just a couple of more breaths here. Knowing that it's almost over, just notice if you have been hovering, if you could dare to let go a little more. And letting go doesn't mean forcing or pushing, it's the opposite. There's an allowing quality. Let's inhale. And exhale. You can walk your knees closer to your elbows, so you can move your elbows off of blankets or blocks or whatever they are on. And come to a child's pose if that feels good or okay on your knees. Or come to any shape where you can rest and let go. So slide onto your belly. Now, if you have a blanket or a bolster even, you could kind of make a narrow rectangle and lay your body over top of that, so that your the blanket is just about where your ribs are. Honestly, it's just making a little, giving you a little shelf for your body, for your anatomy. Come onto the elbows. Let's bring the left arm in the back, the right arm in the front. Walk your hands to opposite sides. Release your head down. You might have a pillow or block under your forehead. If you like, you can tuck your toes and sort of roll your body forward and then release your head down. Hopefully feeling this in the upper outer arms, the interior border of the shoulder blades. So left arm in the back, right arm in the front. It's like eagle pose arms, or the bottom of eagle arms. Practice breathing really deeply. I love saying it that way. Practice breathing really deeply, which isn't the same thing as breathe really deeply, because there is an accomplishment quality versus the practice is just practice. No possibility of failing. Let your body grow heavy. Notice if you're clenching your jaw, chewing on your cheeks. See, some people are just joining in. So we're in folded wings pose with the left arm in the back and the right arm in the front. We're going to change pretty soon. Some people like to rest on top of a blanket just to have a little extra space. Inhale here. And exhale, sigh. Go ahead and lift your head and slide your hands to back to their respective side. Rachel, you stay there. I'll tell you when to change, I hope. Pedal your hands, like kind of wiggle your shoulders, roll your wrists. And then from elbows, you'll bring the right arm in the back and the left arm in the front. And start to walk your hands to opposite sides. Maybe you tuck your toes and roll your body forward a little bit. Maybe your head hangs heavy. Be deliberate with your breath. So don't bully it, but direct it. Is it possible to direct the breath into the back ribs, the side ribs? Rachel, you can change sides now if you want to. Yeah, good. There's a possibility that this pose is having a positive effect on the lungs. The last one we just did, also praying mantis. Not just the lungs, and it's also the heart, the pericardium, also the small intestine, large intestine. But especially with all of the uncertainty in the world, I love that we could imagine, anyway, believe that we are bolstering our lung capacity and even bolstering the immune system. I fully believe, I 100% believe that yin yoga is helpful for bolstering the immune system, keeping the organs healthy. Inhale, receive the breath deeply. Exhale, sigh, lift your head. Slide your hands back to their respective sides. You can roll the shoulders. And then pause. The pause is not a place to check out, but a place, a time, an opportunity to check in even deeper. So if you're on a blanket, I would say you probably want to come off of the blanket. Or possibly, so we're going to practice seal pose or sphinx pose. So for sphinx pose, you can keep your elbows on the ground. If you have blocks or blankets and you want to build up a little bit, you could have your elbows on blocks. You could even bring blankets under your elbows. Same quality. The idea is that you create a little more of a back bend. At any point, if you would prefer to bring your hands to the ground and kind of lengthen your arms, you could do that. The idea here is that we are creating a curve in the low back. Let your pubic bone feel weighted and heavy. And be deliberate with your breath. Using as many senses as you can to become more and more familiar, better and better acquainted with here and now. Lulling the thinking, comparing, judging, measuring mind, so that whatever's underneath could get a little airtime. Notice the expression on your face. Last couple of breaths here. If you were holding out at all, maybe you could lift a little higher or relax a little more, create even a tiny bit more of a curve. Inhale and exhale, lower down. You can make a pillow with your hands. Rock your hips. Turn your head a little if that feels good. There's a yoga principle called pratyahara, which means withdrawal of the senses. And this idea that you can turn all of your senses inward makes you less sort of reactive to sensory input from the outer world, and helps you become more and more acquainted with sensory input internally. Go ahead and wiggle yourself to the right of center on your mat. Your left arm comes out to a T. I'll say the left wrist is the same height as the armpit. Some people will bring it back a little bit. We could call that 9 o'clock. Your arm might move back to 8 o'clock or 7. It might move forward to 10 o'clock. You can have the palm down or the palm up. Bring your right hand to the floor, look to the right, and then roll onto your left outer hip. Let your head release down. If it doesn't feel safe on your neck, place a blanket underneath your head or a pillow. You might just bring both knees to the floor and breathe here. You might keep your legs long, bend the right knee, bring the right foot to the floor. The foot could be in front of the long leg or behind the long leg. Lift your right arm up, drift it around behind you, bend the elbow. Maybe your two hands can lace. So if you're not quite sure, come to lay on your belly, Chris. Wiggle your body to the right of center. You might even have your right rib cage, your right leg off of your mat. Stretch your left arm out to the side. Left hand, we'll say palm up or down, but the left arm's at 9 o'clock. Look to the right, press into your right hand, roll onto your outer hip. So you're resting on your left outer hip. Release your head down, maybe on a blanket. You might bend both knees, keep the knees stacked, the legs on the floor. You might bend the top knee, bring the foot in front of or behind the long leg. Then lift the right arm up and drift it around behind you. Bend the elbow and let your hand just sort of dangle down. If your hands easily find each other, you could lace your hands, but don't change time with your left hand just for your fingers to touch. I don't think that's where the magic is. As you engage this practice, perhaps, of pratyahara, of withdrawing energy from the external world, as you start to move closer and closer to yourself inside, or carve out space inside of yourself, you might, just like when you clean out your closets, come upon things that have been stuck or stored. It can be a good idea to touch them, to feel them, to notice what is arising. And just like in that practice of touching something and asking if it brings you joy, or if you should release it, that might be a really beautiful way to approach beliefs that bubble up, or memories that bubble up, or just be so aware of the subtle effects, or your subtle responses. Like, do you hold your breath? Get curious about that. Do you always chew on your cheeks or squeeze your butt or tense your face? Just get really curious about the things that often evade awareness, elude awareness. Let's go ahead and inhale here and exhale, sigh. Stretch your legs long if they're bent. Release your right arm up and over. Bring your right hand to the ground. Roll onto your belly. Maybe you slide your left hand in. You can roll the wrist, turn your head, roll the shoulder. Pause, feel. And then go ahead and wiggle yourself to the far left of center. You might even have your left leg reach off of the mat. Bring your right arm out to the side. We could call that 3 o'clock. Look to the left. Press into your left hand, roll onto your right side, release your head down. You could use a blanket. Maybe both knees bend and the thighs stay on the ground. Maybe the left leg bends, the foot comes to the floor. Maybe in front of the long leg, maybe behind the long leg. The more it comes behind, the more you'll feel the tugging on your right arm. Lift your left arm up, drift it around behind you. Maybe the elbow bends and your hand dangles down the back. Maybe your two hands release. Yeah, however you feel steady. Be deliberate with your breath. As you sink, as you get deeper and deeper within, it's possible, I'll say probable, that your thoughts move equally from the surface. And it can be really a svadhyaya, a self-inquiry, to notice what kinds of thoughts bubble up, the people that come into your awareness, the beliefs, the thoughts. Almost applying like a dream interpretation. As long as your breath is deep and full, I believe it's probably safe and appropriate. Like the sensation might be anguishing, it might be, you might describe it as uncomfortable, it might feel, even you could relate with it as pain, as painful. You want to stay away, of course, from sharpshooting electric sensations, but if it's a throb or an ache, as long as you can breathe deeply, it's probably okay, but it's really up to you to answer that question. So if it's appropriate to back out a little sooner, that's fine. We're all releasing out of this side now. So inhale and exhale, sigh. Lengthen your legs long. Lift your arm up. Roll back onto your back. Get some weight onto the right hand, slide the left arm in. Roll the shoulder. Roll the shoulder, roll the elbow, and pause. You can make a pillow with your hands. Rest, feel, breathe. And let's come up onto hands and knees. And slide your right knee forward by your right wrist. And turn your right foot in front of your left leg. Your left leg goes long behind you. This is an external hip opener. It's not a knee stretch. Do everything to position yourself so you feel it here and not here. And turn on your microphone if I can give you some extra help. This right foot might be close to your left hip, or the right shin might be parallel to the top of the mat. Go ahead and ease your torso forward. If you want to migrate your body a little bit to the left, that might help. And keep in mind, yin yoga practice, the poses themselves aren't guided by an extreme sense of alignment, wanting everyone to look the same inside the pose. Rather, they're guided by an internal sense of where you feel it, where you're supposed to feel it, and how you can position yourself so that is where you feel it. Relax your jaw. You might feel some kind of lengthening or tugging in your back thigh. Yeah, just notice that internal tracking device. If there's a checking with the environment, almost like, should I be doing something else? Or am I doing this right? Or is everything okay? It's a low grade anxiety, honestly, that's there a lot. And I love that yin yoga and maybe meditation are places where you can befriend that a little bit. almost like it's a guard, always on guard, and you could start to find the ability to let it go, sometimes to give the guard a day off. Just a couple of more breaths here. Could you soften your jaw, your shoulders, your tongue, your lips? Walk your hands under your armpits, lift your torso. You could come back onto hands and knees, slide the right leg back. Maybe drive the heel back, wiggle the hips, maybe kind of open up to the side, almost like a side plank, a half side plank, or you could come into a downward dog if that would feel really delicious. Whew. As you're ready, both knees on the ground. Slide the left knee forward. Turn the left foot somewhere in front of the right leg. Lengthen the right leg long behind you. Pivot the right hip and shoulder and rib cage forward and fold forward. And you do want to feel it in your outer hip and not your knee. Are you feeling it in your knee, Chris?
I have this crazy cramp in my leg.
Okay.
We'll be good.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I have gotten cramps in like my feet sometimes, or like a hamstring or something. And I found it to be really fascinating, especially in yin yoga, if I could just watch the whole thing, watch it seize, feel it squeeze, and then watch it start to let go and unravel. I can't always do that, but sometimes it has captivated my attention and been an interesting exploration. I went to see a psychic once, the South Philly psychic. She's pretty famous around here. But in the middle of speaking, she suddenly stopped and she looked at me. She said, "Whose feet are cramping?" And I said, "Oh, mine." And I hadn't told anyone. She said, "You need magnesium." So I offer that to you in case that might be helpful. Let yourself sink a little more. Let yourself feel the pull of gravity. In a lot of ways, we're being tested right now. Our patience is being tried. So many of our resources are being drawn from. So giving yourself a chance to really let go, to feel the heaviness, to lay the burden down, to feel like the breath itself can spur the energy that can heal. So valuable. Like you could fill your inner well and puff up all of the places where you feel squeezed. Inhale here. Exhale, sigh. Walk your hands in and lift up. I'd like to exit the side differently if that works for you. Get some weight on the left leg and spin the right leg forward. So you'll be facing forward. You might want to rub your left knee, roll your left ankle. We'll fold over the legs. So you might sit on the edge of a blanket or two blankets. Propping yourself up could help your hips tip forward. If your knees are quite lifted, you might want to place your arms underneath, or again, a blanket. If you go to fold forward, but your low back rounds behind you, you might even bend your knees. So your feet on the floor could help the low back round, which is really, that's the first thing we want. The first thing we want is for the lumbar spine to move into flexion. And then once that's coming forward, then maybe getting the hamstrings to open is a good choice. You're certainly welcome to use your blocks if you like as elbow supports or your forehead support. And notice if you're tugging at yourself, if you're pulling yourself forward. See if instead of tugging or pulling or striving in any way, you can melt. Some small aspect of the mind, that maybe the part that's tracking, maybe the part that's assessing continually. Is often finding the present situation somehow a little bit dissatisfying. There's some small aspect of the mind that is always wishing for something else. But I love the realization that most of you, wherever you are at any given moment, most of you is 100% content with being there. Like your toenails right now, your toenails are fine. I mean, they might want a pedicure, but they're fine. Right now, You know, your eyebrows, they don't mind that you're in the seated forward bend. They don't wish for a different experience. Your liver is utterly content. And obviously you can do this. You can go around and consider all of the things that might comprise you. And especially if you're feeling bored or you're feeling irritated or in a yoga class or in the world, and just clarify that most of you, wherever you are, is 100% fine. And then you can just get curious about that small, tiny little part of yourself that amplifies its own importance and actually may have an agenda, may have something tied up in you not sinking into this present moment. I think that's really compelling. I remember asking myself, what is it that my mind doesn't want me to discover? That's always pulling me to a different experience. Like, what is it that threatens this aspect so much? That might be a curiosity to you. Inhale here. Exhale, sigh. Start to use your hands and lift yourself back up. You can bring your hands behind you. Point the wrists however you like. Maybe you like to arc up your heart. You can bend your knees and windshield wiper your knees back and forth a few times. Go ahead and come to lie down on your back. You can hug your knees into your belly. Rock a little bit on your low back. And then extend your legs long. Nestle under blankets, put on socks or sleeves. If you have some fabric or a pillow or a scarf that you'd like to lay over top of your eyes, do that. It's important. This pose is important. It's not a throwaway. And it is when you get to integrate all of your work so far, which means your body, your unconscious mind, your intuition gets to assimilate and begin the work of transforming. Can continue to let that aspect of mind perhaps be lulled by the feeling of your breath. before you rush to move, rush into whatever is next, give yourself over to another embodied discovery of what's now. Hopefully you have arrived at something like a spacious contentment, some ease, some simple joy. I love that yoga doesn't give us anything but reveals the truth to us. So feel what is true. In the world of impermanence, become acquainted with what is eternal. Bend your knees, roll into a little ball on your right side. Pause there. Hug in on you. And then go ahead and build your way back up to sitting. Return to a comfortable cross-legged position. Close your eyes. Maybe there is a little sense of that lost sense of wandering through a field or the woods and not tracking. A sense of simply being. Bring your hands into prayer, lift your heart, and bow your head. Let's conclude with the vibration of a single Om. Inhale. Drift your arms behind you. Your right hand encircles your left wrist. Your left thumb and forefinger touch. Beam your heart up to the sky and lead with your heart. Exhale, bow forward. Seal in your practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay.